Hi everyone. Hopefully we can get everyone back. So the last live stream, the internet was cut short. So hopefully we can get the 300 people back. Thanks so much that so many of you joined us. And we were talking about Eskom and the situation in Eskom. I was going through the details of how the grid needs to be maintained stable and how when we go below 20,000 megawatts, especially around 18,000 megawatts, the grid can become so unstable that you could lose large areas of the country. It's happened in the past, and it can certainly happen again. And if criminal elements make use of that, especially if it happens for extended periods, those can become flashpoints, and you need to be aware of that. So, welcome back. We have just over 50 people in the stream again. And please go and watch the first part so that you can get all the details that I give you there with regards to Eskom. There's so many people, wannabes out there giving commentary on national TV and radio shows, etc., that have never worked with a national grid in their lives, that have never worked in a control room, never synchronized a generator, like myself. They have absolutely no experience. They have no idea what they're talking about. And this is very dangerous. So you're getting information from a real expert, and this is unusual. There's not many of these experts that will actually be on platforms like this speaking to you. So it's really awesome to have you back. So please share this. This is part two. And in part two, we will talk about other flashpoints that are very important to understand right now. So I wanted to discuss the possibility of a flashpoint because of loss of electricity. Now, I was saying just now that we are not going to see a civil war in this country, a race war in this country, or religious war in this country on any large scale. A flashpoint is when something happens in an isolated place. And wherever you are, if you are in that isolated area where a flashpoint kicks off, you need to be able to take action to protect yourself and your family and your friends, whoever else you want to, people in your community. And so you need to be aware of these flashpoints in the country. The next flashpoint I want to speak about are extremist groups. Now, extremist groups on the left, right, religious, doesn't matter, are funded by exactly the same people. When extremist groups have weapons, you need to ask yourself, where do the weapons come from? If they have money to do operations, you need to ask yourself, where does the money come from? And then you will very quickly see that most of these groups are funded and used to destabilize countries, regions, or areas. And you can do this very easily to get rid of a government for the purposes of a coup, for another country to have more influence in a specific country, especially if it's about oil, minerals, or anything that they want to extract out of a specific country. And especially when people want to be self reliant, look after themselves, there are global elites that don't like people that are independent, that can look after their own interests. They want people to be dependent on government and dependent on larger corporations. And I don't say that governments and larger corporations shouldn't exist. All I say is they shouldn't control your life and you shouldn't be dependent on them. So you need to make sure that you can survive without them. Because in a flashpoint, government cannot help you. Let me repeat that. When there's a flashpoint somewhere, it means that civility breaks down, the rule of law ceases to exist, and whoever's willing to use the most force in a given situation, they are in charge. Under those situations, government cannot help you, not the military, not the police. They can try and send people in, they'll absolutely get annihilated. In South Africa, the people are boss. Okay. So in KwaZulu-Natal, if you look at what happened there, you will see that the police stayed far away and the actual citizens did more to try and protect the areas than the police ever could. The police do not have enough people, do not have enough manpower, vehicles, equipment, etc., to handle situations like that. So when the majority of people in the area decide to loot, plunder, and or burn things down, that is common law. In that moment, those people rule and govern by fear, tyranny, fire, whatever the case may be. And if you don't want to be a part of that, you should remove yourself from that. So if you want to be out of a flashpoint like that, for your own safety, and you don't want to be a part of the looting, pillaging, and whatever, and I don't ever recommend that you break the law in that way, then remove yourself from that situation. You need to be prepared to do that. In the workshops that Lauren and myself will be giving you on Stranger Than Fiction, the SDF workshops, we will give you that type of info in future where you can use that for your own benefit. So what other flashpoints can we have? Certainly, extremist groups is a big flashpoint. So, Eskom, electricity supply is a flashpoint. Why? Because you can't just go and plug into someone else's electricity supply. It doesn't work like that. Like you can fetch water, for instance, or you can even go and catch fish to get food out of a dam, the sea, or whatever. You can't do that with electricity. And the kids of today, especially the youth, they are so dependent on their cell phones and internet connectivity. You will see a riot on your hands like you've never imagined before when the youth don't have their phones for more than 48 hours. This is another flashpoint, and the world doesn't actually know yet what that would look like in detail. So look at America and look at entire blocks of cities being controlled by hooligans. That is probably something close to where you might end up. If the youth of today become bored because their cell phones don't work, then become irate, they don't know what to do with themselves. The youth of today is a massive flashpoint when we have a lack of electricity. So look out for that, because it could become a gang situation. They could gang up and do stupid things. And no one actually knows what that would look like. We don't have very good proof situations around the world to actually know what will happen psychologically to the youth when they lose internet connectivity for an extended period of time. The next thing that I want to speak about is government instability. So another big flashpoint, and we're heading towards the possibility of such a flashpoint right now, is where the ruling party, like the African National Congress, literally cannot control what is happening in the country anymore. Okay? And because of that, flashpoints can become more prevalent. So when a government fails, in other words, the citizens decide that they don't want to obey the laws imposed by that government, then civility breaks down. And then anarchy reigns and people do what they want. That's what anarchy means. And a lot of people are anarchists, absolutely believe that government shouldn't impose any rules on them. So these people might do what they want. I don't know what that's going to look like. It could be good, it could be bad, who knows what that will look like. But know that this can cause flashpoints when people disagree with each other, and what is considered public infrastructure is affected in a certain way, whether it's a road that you want to drive on, whether it is a public library that you want to use, or any public space, and someone else wants to use it in a way and control it under those circumstances, and government, police, or law enforcement has no more control, then those are massive flashpoints. The same way that people blow up at each other for an incident at a robot somewhere, where someone shows someone a zap sign or swears at somebody out of the window because they don't like what they did, or that they honk their hooter and you get road rage. The same way people could explode in many public situations. It could get out of hand. And flashpoints like that becomes really bad when people are tense because of things. So think about the youth freaking out because they don't have access to their cell phones, their batteries are flat, they can't speak to their friends, their world ceases to exist. These people wouldn't know what to do without a cell phone, literally. And this should be of a great concern to you. And the biggest concern should be the fact that you've allowed your child to become that person, to become that vegetable, to become that zombie when it comes to a cell phone. Remove a cell phone from your child for a week and see if they can survive. If they cannot, you've made a big mistake, and you need to absolutely try and rein that in as best you can. One big flashpoint is government instability and people taking on common law. A lot of people say common law is awesome. Common law can be brutal because people can decide this is what we're going to do in this area. If we don't like these people, we're going to string them up in trees or whatever the case may be. Be very careful what you wish for. So we do need a form of governance. We do need a form of civility. We need stability. Those are all things you need for a civil society to exist. And anything that breaks that down, floods, fires, chemical spills, biological warfare, terrorism that could cause flashpoints. At this stage, extremist groups have been just being touched on in the media, that extremist groups are organizing, planning, etc. Now, when that happens, you need to think for yourself that people are being prepped that such events might actually take place. And when that happens, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't wish that on everybody, but be aware that events like that can create flashpoints. It's been a very long time since pipe bombs and things like that have gone off in the country, and thank goodness, I hope it never happens again. But if it does, how will the people today behave to things like that? How will they tolerate it? How will the current police handle it? How will the military handle it? Will they actually go after the perpetrators, or will they lock the rest of us up to keep us safe? All of these things you need to consider. You need to consider post-COVID, or what I want to call post-COVID regulation or enforcement, when the government, the military, the police got away with so much when it comes to removing our freedom during that period of time. What will they be capable of in future? How will they be capable of removing your freedom again? And how will you respond? This could be a huge flashpoint. Government forcing certain things on you that you do not want, that I do not want. This could be a huge flashpoint. And I always say, maintain stability, withdraw from issues, withdraw from problems to keep yourself safe. A lot of people don't feel this way. They want to tackle things head on, they want conflict, and they want to fight. And the worst thing you can do to resolve conflict is to fight. That is not resolving conflict. That is fighting. So we want to avoid any form of violence at all costs. And yet there are people begging for it on social media groups, and many of you frequent those groups. You need to understand, what will these people actually do when there's instability? Are they waiting for their day? Are they people that absolutely cannot wait to get out a gun and shoot in all sorts of directions like they are Rambo? You get these people out there. Stay far away from them. These people are flashpoints. So if you are in any organization that when instability happens, think that they are Rambo, Tarzan, or anything like that, these people are huge flashpoints. They will cause conflicts. Stay away from them. The other thing that I want to cover is outside influence in the country. In other words, outside countries coming here and influencing what is happening here. These can be huge flashpoints. Xenophobia is one of those things. The amount of people from other countries in our country, to the point where they start controlling neighborhoods, they start controlling CBDs and many other things. South Africans could come to the point where they just literally lose it and overreact. I'm sorry, I don't want to say overreact, but have a reaction to that situation that causes total and utter instability, and then you have a massive flashpoint. All of these things are coming together in the next couple of months, and we are seeing political instability playing out. We are seeing an Eskom crisis playing out. We are seeing xenophobic information everywhere playing out. We are seeing the threat of outside influences from the US, from the UK, from Russia, from China, from Saudi Arabia playing out in our country. All of these things cause instability. Then the biggie, the financial system collapsing. So, one of the biggest things that can affect people is not having money to spend. When they are used to money being their only commodity. I was at a gathering very recently where people actually could swap things. And there's many markets where people do that, swap things, barter, etc. No money is exchanged. This is certainly a way that people can live if they choose to. But imagine the financial system, the cryptocurrency system, or whatever it is that you've invested a lot of money and it collapses. And the value of the fiat currency that you use for exchange is no more. What will you do then? This will cause massive, massive chaos. And all that will happen is the World Bank will just print more money and more money. They've already done this to the point where things break. We are at that breaking point. Now, it can break like this, like a bubble that bursts, or it could break like this. And I hope that it is a slow collapse because it has to come back to some form of normality within the current system. And the alternative is to ditch that system completely and move over to something new. So watch the space. I am very sure that by 2030 that the blockchain will be the means for people exchanging whatever. It'll be fully monitored, tracked, and traced. No transaction will be secret, and this will be the main means for people to transact around the world. And within South Africa, our Reserve Bank has been one of the first to actually experiment or roll out CBDC, a central bank digital currency, where they actually look at using a digital coin for the people of South Africa. Now, whether you like things like that or not is irrelevant. A financial collapse of any kind, where the sheriff is knocking at your door and they want to repossess your belongings. Let me tell you, if that happens on a large scale and people start a run on the banks to get cash out of the banks because the financial system's collapsing, it'll be one of the biggest flashpoints. There's one other thing, not enough toilet paper. So I'm not really going to entertain that, but I can tell you if there's not enough toilet paper, it'll be a massive flashpoint like you cannot believe. Toilet paper that will probably cause a civil war against the government more than anything else. So toilet paper is a very powerful commodity, one of the most powerful commodities in the world. Toilet paper. It should be water, but it's definitely toilet paper. But think about the financial system collapsing and you not being able to use, if you had 100,000 Rand in the bank, the value of that 100,000 Rand reduces overnight because your economy collapses or whatever the case may be, and our country is in a serious state. There's a lot of news flying around out there saying that we are bankrupt and this and that. Most countries in the world are bankrupt. If you actually look at real value, the only value is in the citizens. We are the collateral for all the money being loaned. How much can we pay back at the end of the day? So you need to think about that. So it's not that one country is more bankrupt than the next. I really get annoyed when an American says that South Africa is bankrupt, we have no money in our coffers, when America is probably the most bankrupt country in the world. It's really annoying. So we're all in the same boat. The question is, when does it reflect in our lives? And you need to start thinking about this seriously. What will you do if you cannot use your Rand at the shop and that Rand cannot buy you what the Rand could buy you a week ago? If you have to now pay 100,000 Rand for bread, how will you feel in that moment? Are you prepared for that? Can you do that? Can you do that? Or will you be able to make your own bread? Or will you be able to have your own food, whatever that might be? Have you got enough food stored away? Do you have enough water stored away? Do you have a shelter away from home? There's many of these things you need to consider. Have you got enough energy in whatever form? You need to think about these things because within 2023, in the build up to 2024, many things will happen. The Bavarian Illuminati plan that I will discuss tomorrow night in detail on the WODS membership live stream. If you're not a member, you can join by clicking the join button underneath any of my videos and become a part of the membership community. There's 5 different levels. If you're a WODS member, you can join these meetings every Thursday evening. It's about an hour and a half long at 8 o'clock. And I will be discussing that specific plan. And that plan included collapsing the financial system that was created. So what will you do if you cannot use the money that you have been trained your entire life to worship, work for 9 to 5, and gather as much of it as you can. Not gather community members, gather people with skills. No. My father said something very interesting. Take the money and use it as wallpaper in the toilet and main ways too. And this has to happen. When that's going to happen, I don't know. But part of this Bavarian Illuminati plan was that South Africa is governed by an independent body by 2025. I'm not saying it will happen then, but everything is pointing towards that. That our governance system will collapse by then, and many other people might say the right things to you, sound like they want to protect you, sound like they want to help you, but in the end, they will sell you out to an international system that will remove all your freedom from you. And if you join Lauren and I on Stranger Than Fiction, I put out the link earlier, then you'll be able to see videos there that actually talk about those issues. And I think it's really important that you go and watch those videos, spend time there, and watch our live streams there. And then, if you can, come and join the workshops. Here's a link in. There's a link to Stranger Than Fiction, and you will see the SDF workshops. We will be doing workshops in future. I will do specific videos on that still to explain that to you. Workshops in future where we will try and equip people for these times that we live in. We'll go into a lot of detail in those workshops, and I think it's necessary. We already have people booked for the workshop that will be happening this Saturday, and next week, Wednesday, it'll be the only 2 workshops this year, and those will be basically the entry explanation for next year. We will repeat that in next year, and then we will, over a 6-month period, cover from a level 1 to the highest level, and then repeat that in that year and continue on from there. So that training will be ongoing, but please go and subscribe to Stranger Than Fiction, because truth is stranger than fiction. It's where my wife and I, we have a channel together, Lauren and Desmond, and we discuss many things that you should find important, because we there discuss things that will become flashpoints in future. And I really want to thank the over 300 people that have joined us in this live stream. Please share this, friends and family. And thank you so much for being such an awesome community, for making such a difference in other people's lives. And thank you so much for giving me hope for this country. You know, when we started with the Double O Days tour and we traveled the country for a year and a half as a family, we didn't know what to expect. You showed us what the country is capable of doing, and you are continuously showing us how we can change political thought. We want to change the governance system in this country, and the Zondo Commission has recommended those changes. We just need to make sure that all these people, the leeches, the copycats that want to subvert what we are doing, that they don't get their way, and this community can absolutely make that happen. So please share this content. These flashpoints are important. I might not harp on many things that other extremist groups harp on. I'm giving you real, relevant things that will affect your life. These flashpoints, if you study them, think about them, they will be the most important things to affect you in future. Like I said, you can get water from a river and a local dam, a public river. You can't get electricity from there. You can't get a cell phone from there when it doesn't work. If your kids can't communicate, if they don't have internet connectivity, their world changes completely. Will they cope? You need to think about these things. Extremist groups being used to destabilize countries. How will you cope with that happening in your area? How will you cope with a government breakdown? How will you cope with a breakdown of the financial system? The money that you use to buy things. How will you cope with a total loss of electricity in the area where you live? And how will you cope with criminals making use of that to destabilize your area? These flashpoints will happen. I can tell you now that we will have entire areas completely destroyed in this country. And I'm not a doomsday prophet. I know that based on what I can see and what is planned, that these things will happen. Now, what is this not? This is not a civil war. It's not a race war. It's not a religious war. It's none of those things. It's flashpoints. And I need you to understand this so that you can prepare for it, so that you can remove yourself from it. Because that's what I would recommend you do. That's what I would do. And my family is prepared to do that. And you can join our workshops if you want to find out more in future about how to literally mitigate these events and how you can prepare yourself for these eventualities mentally, physically, how you can think, how you can do things. And we will go into a lot of detail in these workshops in how you can prepare yourself. So please join us. Thanks for joining me in this video. Thanks so much for being in this live stream to have over 300 people this time of night. Thank you for your time. And thank you for sharing love with people out there in the world. It is so important. Thank you again to all the people that contributed towards Graydon and his eye operation that went off successful this morning, that we could raise the funds for him to do that. All the people that gave well wishes, their prayers, etc. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everyone.